Okay, if you're ready.
I'm ready. Are we coming in?
Yeah.
I'm coming in.
I can invite you.
Yes.
I won't hide it that we are here with each other for 3 years, for 3 days, but I feel like it's 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
And I'm really happy that you're here in Warsaw with us because I feel like we are making together that whole Meisner Institute thing. For us, it's really big, so I'm really grateful that you're here.
Bart, I just want to say that you and Gola have been so kind to me for my first visit here to Poland and to Warsaw. And I'm so impressed with the program that you've started and the students you have. It's just been a joy to work with them. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah, oh my God, oh my God.
So thank you for the words. I have some questions.
I have some answers. Maybe. Moja.
Okay. So first of all, I want to ask, because you're here for a couple days, so how do you like Warsaw?
I love the city. I love the feeling. The people are so friendly. I just was having coffee this morning, and I just they were so kind to me. We had a chance to walk through one of the parks in Warsaw, and it just is beautiful. There's such a rich culture in Warsaw and in Poland, and I'm beginning to experience some of that firsthand, and it's remarkable to see what you guys have created. I know that your country has gone through some difficult times, and now to see where you are now is really impressive.
Okay, thank you. So my first questions for you as executive director of Meisner Institute is: have you always felt you've been good enough to be an actor?
Oh, well, you start with a very difficult question. I've been acting since I was a young child, and I've always had a great passion and joy when I'm acting. But I've I've had my moments when I didn't feel like I was working in a way that was good enough and that satisfied what I wanted to do. It's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the Meisner work, because that was really the first training that I had that really helped me grow as an actor and expand. And I'm feeling a little better as an actor. Sometimes there's some work that I do and I go, that was okay. That was okay.
So it's something like endless journey.
It's an endless journey as an actor. It's an endless journey as a teacher. Every class I teach, I learn something new. I go home, I go, oh, I should have done this, or I could have done that. And it's each student has their own need. And so that's part of what I'm trying to always be responsive to, just like every acting role has certain needs that I'm trying to respond to.
Okay. You have really wide experience because you're teaching people from all over the world, right?
I've been very lucky. I was in China for 4 years teaching there. I've worked with many groups around the world on Zoom, but I've also been to Russia, to Turkey, to Greece, to Germany to teach. And so I've had the opportunity to work in different cultures with different actors, and that's been amazing and fascinating and challenging to sit in a room and have no idea what they're saying. But what I realized was that if I know what the imaginary situation is, I can just watch the behavior. And there's a common humanity about situations, and you can see in the behavior how they're responding and the truth of what they're feeling. So that's been a big discovery for me since I started teaching overseas.
Okay. It's really interesting. So I want to get some more information about your working in whole world. So was there any situation that was more challenging for you and what was the country which with more challenges, or where was it easier for you?
Well, that's a really good question. When I was in China, the culture teaches people to be very shy and reserved. And so to get them to open up and cross over that threshold was challenging. But once they did, oh my goodness. I was breaking up fights, there were people crying. And so once they were able to access that part of themselves, they were just amazing and so talented in their acting. There have been other experiences I've had. I recently was in Israel working with a group of Russians who had left Russia. And I noticed that they were too clever in their work. And so I said, just look at each other. And I was going from one actor to the next, and I saw such incredible sadness. I'd never seen anything like that before. And so I think the challenges they have right now in their country have made it more difficult for them to access their emotions and their imagination. But when they do, they're wonderful as well. But that I found to be a little challenging, is how to move them through some of these problems that they've been having. The actors that I've trained in America, the great thing there is there's a long tradition of actor training, and to live in Los Angeles, where there's so many wonderful actors coming to that city and studying and working. Most of the time I found them to be very easy to work with. It also helps that we speak the same language, so that when I say something, we don't have to worry about translation or understanding. I'll tell you the other one where I'm really fascinated. I haven't had a chance to go to the Philippines yet, but I've trained several teachers there who've started their own programs and worked with some of their students on Zoom. And it's a fascinating culture. Again, very polite, but they have really interesting, and their language is so interesting because they just speak a mixture of different languages. They have Spanish, English, Tagalog, some other, and so just the words that come out have been fascinating to watch how they express themselves.
I remember during our teaching program where I was a participant participating in, I remember they were inviting us to Philippines, and your standard answer is, why not?
What? Yashna.
Yasna.
Yasna.
True. Okay, and for me as an acting teacher, it's really interesting the part of your students. You said they were too smart.
Yeah. I say that in the beginning work, because in the beginning you just want to find your heart, open it up, respond to the other person impulsively. And so if you're smart, I always say my brain is faster than my heart. It's like figuring out a clever thing to do. And so I'm trying to get them to make their heart faster than their brain. And if they're not smart, that's easier. But if they're too smart, then that becomes a problem at the beginning. Once we get to the advanced work, where we're really working on texts and understanding situations and words, and being smart is very helpful. Yeah.
Yes, I understand. Can you tell us about your acting teachers? Have there been some that did not believe in you, and some that built up your self-esteem?
I've been very selective about the teachers that I've invited to train with me. And my main criteria is they have to be a good person and not full of arrogance. And I don't have the time to work with them. They might be brilliant, but I also worry that when they get with students, they won't treat the students the way they need to be treated. I'm so happy to come to your program and see how careful you've been about creating a space that's joyful and safe for the actors. And I want any teacher that I work with to have that as a priority in their own work. So the first thing I'm doing is talking to the teacher and deciding, do I like them? Are they a nice person? Do they have a good heart? And so once we get to class, I'm surrounded by people who are all wonderful people, and then they get to know each other. And so there's this incredible collaboration that I've seen in all the teacher training courses I've done. So we've had a wonderful time with that, and I've not yet had someone that I really had a serious problem with.
Yeah. Is it easy to get a part in a Hollywood film?
Tak. If you're trying to get a part where you play soldier number 3 as an extra with no lines, every day they are looking for extras, is what we call them, who they're dancing at the party, they're serving drinks at the bar, and they're people that have entire careers working as extras in the Hollywood film business, and it seems like they're able to be pretty successful at that. To start working as a principal actor, where you have lines in a TV show or a film in Hollywood, is very challenging. I remember once I met with a casting director, just a meeting, and as soon as she sat down, she goes, "Oh, I want you to come back tomorrow and audition for this TV show I'm casting." And I thought, well, this is easy. And so I got the script and I read it, and it was about this brother and sister who were what we call fraternal twins. And they had committed some murder. It's a murder mystery TV series. And I thought, oh, the reason why she's having me come back is because I must look exactly like the woman that they've already cast. So now they're trying to find someone that could look like her twin brother. So I come back the next day, I walk into the office where we're waiting, and there are 20 men in there who all look exactly like me. I mean, they all could be my brothers. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, the rest of my career, if they're looking for me, they have 20 other me's out there who are also competing for the job. So I can't, even to be myself I still have competition. So that's the reality of the business in Hollywood. The casting director gets thousands of submissions. They can only see a few people. So it means that if you don't have a relationship with that casting director, it's very difficult to ever get an opportunity to even audition for the roles. Maybe you could do some self-tape auditions, but that also is just a challenge because there's so many to go through. And so most of my friends who have worked in the business have had some years where they could make a living as an actor and many years where they can't. Yeah, that's just the reality.
Could you tell us about your adventure with Star Trek?
Star Trek was very interesting, and it goes back to what I just said about knowing the casting director. It turned out that I had a friend in high school whose sister was the casting director for Star Trek. So when I first got to Hollywood, I was able to get a meeting with her, and because I was a friend of her brother, she was very generous in bringing me in to audition for a part. The interesting thing about that is the audition, it was after they'd filmed the first season of Star Trek Next Generation. And there was a person in the cast, the transporter chief, the guy that beams people up and down. He was leaving the show. So they were looking for a replacement for that part. And I went in and I auditioned for it, and I got a call from my agent and said, "You've been cast." And I said, "Oh, great." And then about an hour later, they called back and said, "Oh, the guy changed his mind. He's not going to lead that part. But they are going to try to get you in to do something on the show. I thought it was, well, okay, no big deal. That probably was several millions of dollars of change of fortune in my life, because that show went on for 6 more seasons, and that actor ended up being one of the leads in the next Star Trek series. So whatever I would see his career, I thought, that could have been me. As it was, I was able to do a couple of episodes of Next Generation, and then 1 episode of Deep Space Nine. Had a great time on the set. But as fun as that was, it's not the best acting experiences I've had. I had a couple of lines I did, but when I've had a chance to do my own projects and do a role that had just more to it, that's been much more satisfying for me. But I love that I can say Star Trek. Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
And when you are talking about it, do you have something specific on your mind with the best acting experience?
Well, some of the best acting experiences I've had have been in theater, because there's that connection that you sometimes feel with the audience. I was doing a show in a small city in Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was a play it was called Torch Song Trilogy, which was about a man who is a performer dresses as a woman and is a performer, and it was at a time where the community of gay people in that area had never had any theater that had really talked about their stories. And so the show's about 3 hours long, and most of it I'm talking. And I just remembered the first show, they were it's a comedy, and I didn't hear any laughter, and I was thinking, oh, it must not be going very well. And at the end, they all got up and started. I mean, it wasn't they were clapping for me, they were just celebrating that they had finally seen a part of their story. And what a wonderful thing to be a part of that, and to help them release all these emotions that they've been feeling all their lives. So it's those types of experiences that have really made a difference in my life, as far as feeling like I'm helping people in my work. So those are the ones that stand out for me.
So, could you choose between being an actor and teacher?
Oh, don't make me make that choice. Wow. I love acting. I love showing off. In my family, there's a test you take where there's 4 different birds: owl, peacock, dove, and eagle. And so you answer these questions, and if you're kind of a leader type person, that you're the eagle. If you're sort of the person that always is trying to make peace with everyone, you're the dove. If you're what was the other dove. Well, there's peacock. That's getting to me in just a second. But so anyway, I took the test. Peacock, the show off. So there's that part of me that I love getting attention and being in front of people, and so I've always had that feeling. It's not always good for my acting, but I've enjoyed it. But the teaching part, I think it's really helped me open my heart better to people in the world, because I have to put all of my attention on them. Struggle with how I'm going to help them become better actors. One of the things I love so much about Meisner is he kept insisting that anything he taught would actually make a difference in that actor's ability to act. He didn't just go in and play what I call theater games. We're not running around pretending we're monkeys. And I've done some of those exercises, and when I finished them, I had a great time, but I'm going, I don't think I'm a better actor now. I had a great time, but I don't know how I've improved as an actor. But with the Meisner work, if you really do it right, the students will make visible progress week to week. And you will see it and they will see it. And so there's just that focus on accomplishing a real result. In some ways, I think that's why I played a lot of sports. And the thing I loved about sports is there was a very specific goal, which was to score more points than the other team, or to whatever the contest was. It was to win that contest. And I have the same feeling when I'm teaching acting. The contest is to help them make actual progress as actors. And that gives me a focus and it feels good to have helped them do that. So when I see that happen and we have that special relationship between teacher and student, that's been really joyful.
Mm. What has been so special about Meisner that people still learn his technique and are interested in his life after so many years?
I had the good fortune to meet Sandy Meisner, and when he was quite old, near the end of his career, and I've watched many of the tapes of him teaching. He kept things simple, and he was trained as a concert pianist, and he talked about that when you're learning to play the piano, there are certain fundamental skills that you learn first. The fingering, the notes, the chords, and you don't start with Mozart. You start with, how do I move my fingers across the keyboard? So he applied that to his own teaching and questioned himself, what are the foundational skills that an actor needs in order to be a good actor? And he identified several of those, and that's what he started with very simple, here are some skills that you will always need when you're acting, just like you will always need to be able to move your fingers in a certain way when you're playing the piano. There are certain skills that you need as an actor, and let's learn those first, and let's learn them simply, so it's not complicated. So that I thought was a real strength of his. The other thing is that he was never satisfied with his teaching. So he was always looking for a better way and was constantly experimenting with new exercises. He knew the skills he wanted to teach the actors, but now how do I do that? What exercise does Bart need? And many of the exercises that we now talk about as the Meisner exercises came from an interaction with one student who was having a problem, and Meisner would say, well, let's try this. When the other person says something, why don't you repeat it? Because I don't think you're really paying attention to the other person. And that was the creation of the repetition exercise, which is, again, one that many people are familiar with if they know anything about the Meisner work. He spent 20 years teaching before he even invented the repetition exercise, but he invented it. It seemed to work, and so he started using it more and more in his classes. He invented other exercises that didn't work at all, and then he would not use those again. So over those 60 years that he taught, he kept experimenting and finding the exercises that seemed to be most helpful for the actors in class. I've had experiences though, and I've always thought this is exactly what I think Meisner would have done. I had a student one time that said, I'm not making any progress at all. And I could see that they weren't. And they were alive and creative, and this was in China. And one day, they were just having such a difficult time. I said, you know what? I think your problem is that you're listening to me. I don't want you to listen to a single thing I say from now on. I want you just to do whatever you need to do. Immediately, their work got better. And it's so interesting as you're working as a teacher, if you take your ego out of it and go, what does that person need? Sometimes it's something different than what you think they need. And that's what we're searching for. So Meisner really emphasized that it's a one-on-one relationship between the teacher and each student. And I think that's something that has made his technique or his approach effective is that the teachers that have kept that approach, that have kept emphasizing these basic skills and finding exercises that help teach those basic skills. Simply, we can't, when we're acting, we don't want to have a lot of things we're thinking about. So if you just keep it simple and honest and certain basic skills, most actors are going to do pretty well with that. And I think that's why it's become so popular. There's one other thing that I think is interesting to me, is I have so many actors that will say, this wasn't only helpful for me as an actor, but it's been helpful in my life. Mm-hmm. Because if you really pay attention to the other person and you open your heart to them, well, we call this empathy in life. And we think empathy is a good thing to have in life. And so I've had many actors come to me and say, my relationship with my partner is better, my relationship with my parents is better, I had a difficult relationship with my brother, and now I'm just being more honest, and I'm really listening to them and taking them in, and it's really been helpful for me as a person. That wasn't Meisner's goal when he was teaching, but I've heard that enough times that I think that is one of the reasons why it's remained a very popular approach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think this is a tough one.
Okay, I'm ready. You have a tough question. I have a tough answer.
Do you think one may not have the talent and still be able to learn the skills needed to succeed in acting work?
Well, Meisner defined talent as the ability to believe in imaginary things. Mm-hmm. And each of us is born with either more or less of that ability. So if I said to you, you're my brother, a very talented actor would be able to go, okay, and immediately begin talking to me as if they're talking to their brother, which in many subtle ways would change everything about your behavior as you listen to your brother talking to you. Now, just like sports, you can have someone that's a very fast runner, faster than you, but if you train harder than them, you can become faster than they are. And so that's one of the things when I've had students that seem to have limited talent, I've said to them, keep exercising your imagination every day, and maybe someday you will be a lot better than you ever thought, and maybe you'll be better than some of the other students in the class who have stronger imaginations right now. So there's one other thing about that. I think it's not right for an acting teacher to ever tell an actor that they don't have the talent to be an actor. That's not my decision. And we also know that the business is strange enough that there are some very untalented actors who have a very successful career. So who am I to say, oh, you're never going to be able to work in this business or enjoy yourself? So I'm getting a lot better about helping them find the discipline to become better, and then seeing what happens in their lives. Mm-hmm. The other thing I think is important is and this is Meisner was a little more severe about this. I'm not. We're playing. We're like kids. So we do a production and we're not very good, but we're having a great time, and our friends and family come and they enjoy it, and we've had a fun evening just hanging out together. Okay? Not the greatest acting, not the greatest performance. It's not going to change history, but we had a good time. And so why do we want to say, oh no, you can't, you're not talented enough? It's like, yeah, anyone's talented enough to say, here's your drink. So if you're the bartender, here's your drink. You don't need a lot of talent to do that job. So there are jobs for you in the business, regardless of how much talent you have.
I remember one of the transformation of my students, like you said before, mm-hmm. Who have been working more than others. Mm-hmm. And here's the question for you. Is there one particular transformation in a student of yours you remember?
It's one I tell the story a lot, so if I've already told you this story, I apologize. But there was an actor in China, a boy, very handsome, and he was what we would call a bad boy. He liked girls, but not in a serious way. He just liked it, and so he had all the physical equipment for having a good career, but he lacked empathy for other people. I mean, he just really didn't care about other people. And we were doing a scene where it's a very difficult situation where he had a wife and the wife's sister, and he had raped the wife's sister, and now the two of them were confronting him. And the way I had directed him was that was something that it was a moment where he was really taking in what he had done. And he came to me and he says, I'm having a real problem. I know what you want me to do, but as they're talking to me, I really don't care. I just don't care. I don't care that my wife is upset. I don't care that her sister's upset. I don't feel bad about what I did to the sister. I don't care. So what do I do? And I thought for a second, and I thought, you know what, let me trust his instinct. And I said, well, then that's how you feel, then that's how you should do this part. And so he did the part. It became different than how I saw it, but much better, because it really got them very upset and emotional. It was very interesting. But the best part about the story is not that performance, but the next thing he worked on was a scene where it's two people who were husband and wife who've gotten divorced. And they're having one more meeting before they say goodbye forever. So the divorce has already happened, all the fighting is done, and it's a really delicate, sensitive, nuanced, emotional situation. I mean, it's not an easy thing to understand what that moment is like, especially if you've never been married and divorced and had those types of relationships. And he did it, and he was amazing. I'm seeing all these emotional colors in him as he's talking to this woman, and I'm thinking, where did that come from? And I think it was because I gave him permission to be himself, that once he did that, then other things started coming to the surface, deeper parts of himself that he was able to express. So that was a huge I mean, he went from really not a very serious guy, and probably the best he could do was just play parts where he's a handsome guy, to being someone who had great depth of heart. So that always stands out for me as an amazing transformation as an actor.
What would you say to actors who work in the field and wonder if the Meisner technique can give them something more?
Well, it's interesting to have actors who are very young trained, and it's interesting to have older actors come in, and then to see some older actors have a lot of bad habits that are difficult to get rid of, but they have bad habits. So even if they've been working, they may have developed certain bad habits that are not going to help them do the type of work that they're capable of. And so the Meisner work, by really getting them back to the basic skills that they need to learn, sometimes is very helpful for them to remind them what it is they need to be focused on. Every time I'm working, I should be focused on you. Now, if I'm not, if I need to remind myself, focus on the other person. When I'm doing something, I should really do it. So that's another one that often actors forget about when they start working. So to me, it's I was in class for 10 years, I couldn't stop going to class. And even when I started teaching, I was still going to class as a student because I just wanted to continue to develop and grow. So I found it extremely helpful for me. And I've known several actors who were very strong working actors who, when they came to class and worked, really appreciated the ability to just focus in again on just developing their skills.
The last question of that part.
Okay.
And it's really important for me because there is a lot of fantastic students that will never get a chance to show their talent to the world. What do you think allows some to make it?
Well, it breaks my heart that some of my students won't be able to do the work that they are capable of and share their spirit with the rest of us. So I'm always sad if they're not able to find opportunities to do that. But it's the word "to make it," I think, that is the problem. What is making it? Even actors who have become quite famous at some point stop working and stop getting job offers. Their careers, it's again, like sports, there's a time period where you're getting work and then you're not. So does that mean that they made it but now they're not making it, or are they still making it? So I think if we go into it with that mindset, I want to make it as an actor, I think that already sets up a problem for us in our brain. I want my actors to be performing all the time and find opportunities to do that. I have a group that I was working with on Zoom, and they were complaining about not having opportunities to act. I said, let's make movies. Let's make our own movies. I mean, that's the beauty of this time in our history is I can take my phone and make a movie today. I can make a movie of the interview with Bart, right? And that could be my little movie for today. It may not be the greatest movie ever, but it's now completely in each actor's control to work and perform and create performances. And that's one of the things that I've really started emphasizing with my students. The school I was teaching at in Los Angeles, so many students that weren't getting opportunities. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna create a film festival. This was before the digital revolution. So back then, to make a film meant you had to buy the film and it was costly. But I said, we're gonna start making our own films. And then we're gonna have a festival where we show our films. And that program now, they've had that festival for 25 years. And there's between 250, 300 films made a year by the students at that school. Because we said, let's stop waiting for someone to discover us. Let's just start creating. So some of them, you'll never know them, but they've had amazing careers. They've made scores of films. They've been wonderful. They've been able to experience all of that. They get to come to a festival where there's a huge screen and they're up there and we get to see them and we're eating our popcorn going, oh my God, that was wonderful. So that's what I want for the students I have, is to go, okay, what do I need to do to start having those opportunities?
Okay. Let's say something more about it, because my point is that the best acting I've ever seen was on my classes. It was my students, my graduated students. And probably you're in the same situation.
Yeah.
And I feel something like I'm sorry for other people who didn't see it.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some features of some person makes them visible for audience and for casting directors.
Well, I have a good friend who had a very successful career in Hollywood. He's not famous, but he got lots of work. And I asked him one time, I said, because he wasn't a particularly good actor. I mean, he was okay, but nothing special. But he was working all the time. And I said, what's your secret? I mean, and he said, 5 good friends, 5 best friends. He said, 5 best friends. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I have 5 casting directors who are my best friends. And I said, are they really your best friends? He goes, they think they are. And has had that ability to develop friendships with 5 casting directors who, whenever they're doing a project, they go, oh, we should call this guy in. So if we're trying to teach our actors how to make a living and break into Hollywood and making TV and film projects, that's what we should teach them, how to make friends, because that is how the business works. It's all about relationships. And unfortunately, when we're teaching acting, we're not teaching those skills. I mean, there really should almost be if someone really wants to do that for their career, there are other things they need to learn how to do. And actors are introverts in a strange, many of them. We have to work at being. We don't always have those skills. Those, like, the person that just seems to make friends with everybody. Yeah, I don't know many actors like that. Most of us are kind of trying to figure things out. So that I'm going to make that suggestion. If you have people that really want to do that in their lives, then we should develop a class, how to make friends and influence people. That would be the name of our class.
But this is not our goal.
No, my goal is let's make our own stuff. Let's put on performances. And we're going to do a performance with your group later this week. We're going to do it right here. We're going to have a few friends and family show up, and we're going to have an amazing time. And whoever's there for that experience is going to really enjoy it. Yeah. So.
To say on the end of that word. My goal on classes is to make better artists from them, or better actors from them. What do you think about it? Is your goal similar? I'm talking about it instead of make them career happen. This is another goal.
Yeah.
Another goal is to make better artists.
The word artist is a little big for me, because it's like an artist. Like, oh, goodness, I don't feel like an artist. That seems, the artists that I admire, I'm thinking, well, I'm never going to be one of them. So then it's like a goal that's beyond my reach. Can I teach my actors to be better children who play? I think I can do that. So if I can just get my actors to open up, have the joy of playing in their imagination, and then other people watching that and enjoying that, I would like. There's that, what's that ancient Greek word, catharsis, which is the idea that if the actor actually experiences the part, then the audience will also experience those negative emotions, and they will purge themselves of those emotions, and then it helps them become happier. I kind of like that idea. And so I would love to have some performances where it's more serious, and there's really is sort of this, it's like, when you watch a sad movie and you get some popcorn and you put the movie on, you're sitting on your couch, and then you have what we call a good cry, right? So you're crying, oh my God, they're falling in love. I'm so, it's so sad. And I want people to have good cries. I want them to come to a performance get moved, open their hearts, and the actors to do that as well. And then at the end, we're going, we've had a wonderful evening together. Let's go have a beer and enjoy ourselves. That to me, if I can help my actors do that, I feel like I've accomplished something.
Okay, it's beautiful. This is great at the end of the first part, because we prepared questions from students. And we'll give you it in the second part.
I'm looking forward to the questions from the students.
Okay, so thank you for the first one.
All right.
And see you there.
All right, good.